How are you? Good.
Good evening, everyone. Would you please join us in a salute to the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah.
Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2014 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2013, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Okay. Mr. Brownlee?
Here.
Mrs. Larrier?
Here.
Mr. Leventhal? Here. Mr. Ryan?
Here.
Mayor DeLuca.
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public, and whereas Section 7 provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting, and whereas desire this governing body to comply with the provision of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee, Township Maplewood, that it does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberation of the governing body by the public, and except as otherwise prescribed by law, it does limit the public to the observation of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all its regular and special meetings.
Moved. Second.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 4th meeting of the Maplewood Township Committee. This evening, we're going to start with a proclamation that Ms. Leventhal is going to read for Women's History Month. And we'll invite not yet, we'll invite all the women to come up. Let me do the introduction first. We'll invite all the women to come up and stand with Ms. Leventhal. After that, we'll have our first public comment period. If anyone wants to address us, we just ask you to come up and give us your name and address. And then after that, we'll have our monthly Board of Health meeting. At the conclusion of the Board of Health, we'll go back to the regular agenda, and we have 3 ordinances that we'll be introducing. The first is to allow property owners to erect a 6-foot fence along the rear property line. The second is to introduce the bond ordinance to issue $2,908,737 in bonds or notes. And the third is to deal with compensation of part-time and seasonal employees of the Department of Recreation. We then have 4 discussion items. The first, commercial vehicle residential parking. Second is 60 Woodland Road. And the third is the 2014 budget. We'll have a discussion about that. And the fourth is a spring rakeout program. We'll then move to the consent agenda. We will then have our second public comment period. We'll have administrative reports and reports from elected officials. And just on the consent agenda, we have a resolution supporting the Highlands Water Protection and Planning Act. And we have some contracts. One is to mow large turf areas. The second is to replace library windows. We're doing a change order for the Ridgewood Area Drainage Improvement Project. We have an ordinance that we're going to vote on separately that will come during the discussion when we talk about 60 Woodland Road zoning litigation. And then we have a resolution on bills and claims and computing the unreserved taxes and minutes of February 18th. So now, Ms. Leventhal is going to proclaim March 2014 as Women's History Month in Maplewood, and we invite all the women to join Ms. Leventhal. And any ally men can join too, but we'll leave some space for the women. Come on.
2014 Women's History Month. Whereas for 2 centuries, our nation has grown under the simple creed that each of us is created equal. It is a notion that makes America unlike any other place on earth, a country where no matter where you come from or what you look like, you can go as far as your talents will take you. And whereas Women's History Month is a time to remember those who fought to make that freedom as real for our daughters as for our sons. They were women who reached up to close the gap between America and what it could be. They were driven by a faith that our union could extend true equality to every citizen. Year after year, visionary women met and marched and mobilized to prove what should have been self-evident. They grew a meeting at Seneca Falls into a movement that touched every community and took on our highest institutions. And after decades of slow, steady, but extraordinary progress, women have written equal opportunity into the law again and again, giving generations of girls a future worthy of their potential. And whereas that legacy of the change is all around us, women are nearly half of our nation's workforce, more than half of our college graduates. But even now, too many women feel the weight of discrimination on their shoulders. They face a pay gap at work, or higher premiums for health insurance, or inadequate options for family leave. These issues affect all of us, and failing to address them holds our country back. And whereas our history shows that when we couple grit and ingenuity with our beliefs, there is no barrier we cannot overcome. We can stay true to our founding creed that in America all things should be possible for all people. That spirit is what our mothers and grandmothers were called to fight for a world where no wall or ceiling could keep their daughters from their dreams. And now, therefore, Victor DeLuca does hereby proclaim March 14th, 2014 as Women's History Month and calls all Maplewood residents to observe this month and to celebrate International Women's Day on March 8th. I'd like to thank you for joining me up here. Thank you, and thank you for joining me. I'd like to especially thank women leaders, international women leaders, who are doing their utmost to break down gender-based barriers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're now going to move to our first public comment period. Is there anyone who would like to address the Township Committee?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the Maplewood Township Committee. I am, for the record, Deborah Collins, the Director of Small Business Development and Affirmative Action for the County of Essex and the county's liaison to the great Township of Maplewood. I have a number of announcements for you this evening. The first is an invitation from Joseph N. DiVincenzo Jr., the Essex County Executive, and the Board of Chosen Freeholders, inviting adults to participate in yoga classes. Tuesday afternoon yoga with meditation. Now this will run through June. Chair yoga Thursdays, Thursday evening yoga, Friday morning yoga. And we're pleased to inform you that the yoga instructor is Gina Monchiello, a certified 500-hour level teacher and a licensed massage therapist. Her classes focus on mindful movement, breath, body energetics, and alignment. For more information, please call 973-228-8776. That's 973-228-8776. Spring is just around the bend. I believe it. I know you do too. Special events at the Turtleback Zoo, Spring 2014. The Wolves' birthday celebration will take place on Saturday, April 12th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Help celebrate the Wolves' birthdays. Party for the Planet, Sunday, April 27 from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. International Migratory Bird Day, Saturday, May 10th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And Bear Awareness Day, Saturday, May 17th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. For more information, please contact the Essex County Turtleback Zoo, 973-731-5800. That's 973-731-5800. The County of Essex invites you to attend its Complete Streets Training Workshop. This action plan will ensure that the county fully integrates complete streets and serves as a model for municipal adoption of complete streets policy and implementation to strengthen the county's transportation infrastructure by providing mobility for all users of all ages and abilities, including pedestrians, bicyclists, and transit riders. This workshop will take place on Thursday, March 6th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Essex County Environmental Center. That's 621 Eagle Rock Avenue in Roseland, New Jersey. To RSVP, please call 972, it must be an error, I'll look into that and get back to you. Looks like it's 973-865-1659, 973-865-1659. And last but not least, the Office of Small Business Development and Affirmative Action will launch a financial literacy program for small, women-owned, and minority businesses. We will get more information out to you in about a week or so. It's going to commence in April, so I'll be announcing it again. But for more information, please feel free to call our office at 973-621-2010. That's 973-621-2010. Are there any questions or concerns for the county?
Anybody? I would like to publicly thank you for getting us salt when we were not able to get it anywhere. It was about a month ago. I called you at 9:30 at night after a meeting, and you said, I'll call you back in a couple minutes, and you did. And it was like out of the movie. You said, have a truck up on South Orange Avenue at midnight. It was great. I get this call on my cell. It's like, all right, DeLuca, midnight. Yeah, midnight. You got 2 trucks full. That's what it was.
I'm a very bottom line oriented person. I wanted you to get the critical information.
Yes, you did. You were good. You were right to it. And so, I don't know if you know this, but we immediately called one of the contractors here who had the biggest trucks we could find and sent them up there. And they filled up one full one and half of the other. But
I was so perplexed because I spoke to the director of Public Works and he said, well, they sent 2 trucks. I said, only 2? I told them they could send 3.
Yeah, well, we sent 2. We sent big ones. So, but you did, and you were very helpful, and you got us salt when we literally had nothing left. So, thank you very much for that.
It's our pleasure, and we're just happy to hear that this program of municipal liaisons does work. And
Yes, and you have been, every time there's a storm brewing, you email, you text me and make sure that I know that you're ready to help us if we need it, so thank you.
pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I look forward to the next phone call like that. Is there anyone else who would like to address the Township Committee?
DeLuca, get the truck up on the S-curves.
Right.
I don't know.
Good evening. Julie Martini, 12 Briarcliff Court. I appeared before you and asked about some high-level financial information, and you sent me to your comprehensive annual financial report. And thank you again, Mayor DeLuca, for making a copy available to me. So I completed the spreadsheet.
Caesar, can we move on?
There might be an extra.
Feels like there's an extra.
Don't have one.
There is.
Is there an extra one by any chance?
Yes.
So I had wanted a high-level view of the amount of money that you collect, and it seems to me you collect about $106 million, out of which most of that gets passed through except for about $26 million, which I think is better information than that letter that we get that's attached to our new tax bills that tell us, 65 cents of every tax dollar goes towards education, et cetera. And it gives me at least some scope of the amount of money that we're dealing with. Some of the other things in the CAFR, as you call the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, sort of came out to me. One was the amount of debt interest service that has increased, that actually hasn't doubled over the past decade from 2002 to 2012. I think it went from about 6%, a little over 6% to over 13%. And I saw that there was a surplus in 2012 due to the increase in taxes that you collected because of the reassessment. And I believe, if I remember correctly, at another meeting, I heard that you paid down some debt with that. Am I correct? I think you used it to retire some bonds, or no?
We bring it in as revenue.
Yeah, we bring it in as revenue every year, and that goes to pay down the debt.
The debt. Yeah, that's a good idea. The other thing that I noticed was that financial support that we get from the federal government, the state government, and the county over the past decade has also decreased. And when I put that in context with the kinds of things that you're trying to do with redevelopment, the one station house that I asked you lots of questions about, 1 Rickleton Square, Maplewood Crossing, it seems to me you're trying to raise money in order to accomplish those particular shortfalls that'll come from those partners, but also in recognition of the fact that our costs and expenses go up every year, they don't go down. One recommendation that I might make is perhaps a meeting that you could have for the town where you go over these high-level things so that people will understand this. I think in the coming years we might have to make hard choices. And, I applaud you for coming up with what I think are good interim solutions, developing land that is available to us, but we're going to eventually run out of land. And then what are we going to do? So I've mentioned to you, Mr. DeLuca, that there is a point at which there's a ceiling where we can't continue to raise taxes. We're at about 3.5% now. At some point, we reach the ceiling and we can't go any further, and yet we might have to. Anyway, do you know when the CAFR of 2013 comes out?
When will the audit?
Now. Working on our audit, which would indicate that now. So about another 6 weeks.
Okay. I'll look for it then. Anyway, thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
I really appreciated that.
Thank you for your suggestion, too.
The other thing that I wanted to bring up is this. I'm a big fan of Bill Moyers and Bill Moyers' Journal, and I try never to miss it. And on 2 recent occasions, he had a young civil rights lawyer on named Michelle Alexander. And she's written this book called The New Jim Crow, which I took out of the Summit Library because Maplewood didn't have it. And I'm very impressed with it. And she says that affordable housing is closed to people who come out of prison, particularly convicted felons, and that this is discriminatory, and I agree with her. And I would like us as a town to try to fight that. I know that when I went to the open house at Maplewood Crossing, the realtor said, oh yes, because I asked her about affordable housing, and she said, oh yes, the people who come in for affordable housing are tremendously vetted, including a criminal background check. And I figured, okay. That was before I read this book. And so I was wondering if as a town we could have a discussion of that, if that is indeed correct, that convicted felons cannot get affordable housing in Maplewood. What do you think?
Well, I'm not sure, to be honest, I don't know if that is a criterion that we use, because we have a firm, we can check with the firm that we use.
I thought it was a state, I thought you got on the list for affordable housing through the state.
No.
Rather than,
No,
Okay.
what, we have a firm called Community Grants Planning and Housing, and they do this and follow the state guidelines, but like when the Station House and Maplewood Crossing were ready to open, they're the ones that put the ad in the paper soliciting applications. I just don't know if a criminal background check is part of their work, or if it becomes part of the work of the realtor once. What happens is they qualify you, so you get qualified by income to go, and then you have to get qualified by the realtor. So I don't know at what point who's doing what. But just on that, I have been involved with other mayors with the Institute for Civil Justice to do something called Ban the Box, which is a job application which has a box on it and
yes,
says,
yes.
have you ever been arrested?
right.
And so we've talked about it here, and I've informed the Township Committee of what I'm doing and spoke to Mr. Manning about our own practices, and we don't ask that question, and only after there's a promise of, or there's an offer of employment do we do that. Because people got arrested for a lot of different reasons in their lives, and some of which they never get convicted of. But, and honestly, sometimes when we interview candidates for police and fire, we see that they may have had an indiscretion when they were young. But they still have the confidence of the chief now as an adult to move forward. So I don't think that we have taken any kind of position like that. I just don't know about the affordable housing piece, so we can check that out.
Okay, thanks. And then lastly, I promised my neighbor I would bring this up. He catches a very early train, in fact, before the jitney. And he takes his car, and he's complained to me about the light at Valley and Parker when you're on
Yes.
Parker. It says it takes him forever to get through that light in order to park in time to catch the train. So he asked me to bring it up. I said I would.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
all right. Mr. Brownlee?
Actually, two comments I wanted to make in response to a couple of things you said. You mentioned that you had taken that book out of the Summit Library because our library didn't have it. I'm not sure if you're aware, but beginning on March, I believe it's March 12th, the new, what's called the Buckles Consortium will take effect, and you'll actually be able to take books out of any library. I think it's up to 75 libraries in New Jersey just by using your Maplewood library card. So you have access to the full collection of all those different libraries, not just ours.
I'm happy because I pay $75 a year for the privilege. of
Okay,
using
all
the
right. So I wanted to
Oh, really,
bring-
for Summit?
No, now because it's actually part of our budget to put in the money that we can join the Buckles Consortium, BCCLS. Don't ask me what it stands for, but that begins on March 12th. Okay, so I wanted to bring that to your attention. And the other was, you mentioned the idea of having a discussion with the public and talking about, some of these different cost drivers in the budget. Little cross advertising here as we speak. You mentioned the percentage of the tax dollars to go to the schools. As we speak, the Board of Education at 525 Academy Street is having a special budget workshop where they're actually going over the budget for the schools, which, as you mentioned, makes up, the number I usually quote is 58 cents on the dollar of your school budget, so perhaps even more. And that meeting began at 7:30 p.m. And so I'd encourage you to, anybody else watching as well, to go over there if you're bored with what we're doing.
Yeah, that's a
And,
problem.
yeah.
I've noticed that.
Well,
their
it's not
meetings and
usually
your
a clash,
meetings-
but tonight there is, yeah.
Right.
So, but I encourage you to go over there and take a listen to them.
Okay, all right, I will.
Just on the
Thank you.
Buckles thing, you'd be able to go there, but you could also go to the Maplewood Library and order the book, and it would come from another library.
Yeah, they'll bring it
Yes, I
here.
have.
You don't have to
done
go
that.
anywhere else.
I have, thank you, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else want to address the Township Committee? Seeing no one, we'll close this public comment period, and we'll come back to the next one a little later, and we'll move into our monthly Board of Health meeting.
Does anybody need an agenda packet?
No, thank you.
Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Law, 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by the mailing of an annual notice of regular meetings for 2014 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2013, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Mr. Brownlee?
Here.
Mayor DeLuca?
Here.
Ms. Leventhal?
Here.
Mr. Ryan?
Here.
Mrs. Larry?
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public, and whereas Section 7 provides that the Maplewood Board of Health has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting, and whereas it is a desire of the Maplewood Board of Health to comply with the provision of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Health of the Township of Maplewood, does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in a formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the Board of Health by the public, except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and discussions of the Board of Health at all of its regular meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Ms. Larry?
Yes, thank you, and
You sure?
welcome to the
It's your
March...
meeting.
I'm sorry?
It's your meeting, you almost missed the vote.
Almost missed the vote. Welcome to the March Board of Health meeting. Everyone received the minutes?
Yes.
Move for their approval as distributed.
Thank you.
Second.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Larry?
Yes. Mr. Rowe, can we have your report, please?
Just a couple of things. Our nurses, along with some help from some other people, developed flyers for our adult health clinic, and on the front there in English, I think I just sent you the French part,
Okay.
Yeah.
and we're getting them proofread, so I think they're right, but we're double and triple checking on the proofreading.
So will they be separate ones, or will it be in English
No,
Creole?
English on the front, French on the back.
Okay.
So we figured that was the best way to do it. And we'll be distributing them far and wide. I met with the trap neuter release group this month, or in February. We had a big group, about 15 people. They were very enthusiastic. I think we had a good first meeting. One of the important decisions that we agreed on was that we would work with one volunteer group, as had been discussed at our meeting, and the group's going to be called the Furry Hearts Rescue Group. And they're in the process of getting their nonprofit status and organizational status work done. So when that's done, we'll be able to be more organized. I'm hoping maybe within the next 3 or 4 months, we'll have a full plan, and I'll also draft an ordinance that for review and that enables the trap neuter release to be done in the township. So,
Was Mrs. Larrier involved in coming up with the name at all?
Furry heart.
Mrs. Larrier was not. She was there, but she was not involved in the,
Furry.
Do you approve of that name?
pardon,
Do
the
you-
furry hearts?
Sounds like the meeting just purred along, though, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Oh, boy.
Are we done?
Yeah, I think so. Sorry. I didn't know Mr. Ryan was
that's my
gonna go that
report,
way.
except just to say that in response to some questions, we're continuing doing the file of life. I'm going to speak with people at Winchester to see if they're interested in doing this. And our nurses have prepared poison control information for babysitters. So we'll be distributing that to places where babysitters, at the school and at the library, and I think there's a couple other places. At the LOFT program. at the high school. So we'll be getting that out to people who babysit.
Do you have the contact at Winchester?
I was going to call the director.
Okay, because I gave Mr. Manning a card, not for the babysitters, for the File of Life, yeah. Well, I don't know, maybe they're babysitting, but when I spoke there, I believe it's Ms. Balzana, or Balzando or something. She was very interested in working with the town,
Right.
so.
Yes, I remember you mentioning that,
Yeah,
so
okay.
that's why we thought to do this.
I just wanted to comment also on the File of Life program. The nurses follow up on everyone who receives one of those, correct?
Correct.
Every year they follow up just to make sure that they're updated. I would also point out that this is also a good way to sort of keep track of those who might be a little more needy in the neighborhood or in the community in case of an issue like Sandy, where there are people you might want to check up on. This enables us to keep, for lack of a better term, keep tabs on them a little bit. Ms. Leventhal.
Yes, I have a question, Mr. Rowe, from the monthly report. Number 7 talks about heavy snow having prevented the pickup of food business trash because the dumpsters were snowed in.
Right.
I'm concerned about this and wonder if we shouldn't be holding the property owners responsible to clear their property so that the dumpsters can be reached. So that would mean a coordination with code, I think, unless that's something that would fall into year 2. But, I mean, I can see where it's a difficulty, but I think the health responsibilities outweigh the fact that somebody couldn't shovel.
Yeah, I think I'm going to, in light of some of the situations, follow up with the businessmen and owners and remind them of their responsibilities and advise them not to let it happen again.
So, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
To tag along with that, what action did you take after seeing the garbage piling up for a week? Were there summonses issued? What
There were no
happened?
summonses issued, but I kind of harassed them till they got it cleaned up. I didn't issue summonses because I had the sense if I did issue summonses, they're probably going to be found not guilty.
I'm sorry? If you did issue summonses?
If I issued summonses to either the business owners or the property owners, the property lines are so intermingled that it's easy for people to point their finger at somebody else in the village. So A would blame it on B would blame it on C would blame it on A, and I have a feeling if I went to court, the judge probably would not find the person guilty. So I just kept after them every day till they got it cleaned up. That seemed to be the better course of action.
Could I suggest maybe, I don't know, Mr. Desiderio, but it seems to me that if the punishment, for lack of a better term, is a summons, that a summons should be given, if that's what the ordinance calls for. If it gets thrown out in municipal court, that's one thing, but if we're simply not issuing summonses because we're afraid it's going to get thrown out, I don't know I don't feel personally that's an adequate enforcement of the ordinance. I don't know if my colleagues feel the same way, maybe.
I agree with you.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and if I may just add, I don't think that they're mutually exclusive. I think the issue the summons and continue to harass them so that, A, it gets cleaned up, and I agree with you, that's the best way to probably get it cleaned up, but it sends a message that you're not going to tolerate it in the future as well. So I think they're not mutually exclusive. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I think it was horrible. You know, for example, the building on the corner of Prospect and Springfield, which has apartments on top, they had a pile of stuff in the back at that dumpster there. They had there was clear access to that dumpster. That driveway was plowed. And The dumpster behind the Bergdorf Center there that I guess the deli uses, and maybe Bill and Harry's. I mean, it was disgusting. And, you know, these guys contract with waste haulers, and, you know, the world doesn't stop because of snow. They got to figure out a way, whether they got to send crews there to hand carry it out to the truck. That's not our problem, but our problem, I think, absolutely agree with you. They should be ticketed and harassed to get the job done.
And I would say, to speak to what the mayor is discussing, that if their trash hauler does not pick it up for whatever reason, they should provide a picture that it was cleared, and then we should get in touch with the trash haulers. I mean, it just can't, it really cannot happen. We have very confined space, aside from the fact that there are, animals have been knocking over trash cans in residences. So it's certainly jumping on the ones that are open.
Understood.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Leventhal, because that was actually my question.
We're going to be meeting with some, Mr. Brownlee and I are going to be meeting with some folks at Jacoby Street on Saturday. I believe you have the best contact of somebody from the Olympic Park.
Yes,
Could you email me that contact?
yes,
This is the person that owns that strip of land on 44th Street, right?
yes.
Yeah, because I want to contact them before Saturday to see if they're open to having a meeting with the neighbors.
Okay.
So
I'll
if you
get that
if you
to
email me that, then I'll take care. I'll make the contact and see if we can get that, so that we can go prepared to the meeting.
Yeah,
Right? Sounds okay?
Yeah,
I'll email that when I leave the meeting tonight.
Okay. Thanks very much.
thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
No.
Thank you, and thank you for your work with the
Furry Hearts.
with the Furry Hearts. I was at that meeting, and I have to say, Mr. Rowe handled that group very well, and I think that I look forward to seeing what we all come up with under your direction.
Struggling for a hairball joke, and
I know,
I'm not
thank
finding-
you.
I'm not finding it.
India, before we close?
I'm sorry?
Before we close, I don't recall, by the way, whether or not I thanked you last month for the presentation you did to the Maplewood Community Action Program as well. You and, what was your assistant's name?
Barbara Gist.
Barbara Gist as well. Very well received, very well done. You reminded me when you held up the life packet information, which you told them about as well. So I just wanted to publicly commend you for that also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just, we have talked to the Township Committee on the 15th, so if you have anything you want us to hand out,
Yes, I do.
you know, the Haitian,
have the
adult
flyers.
thing, the flyers, whatever you have, you just stick in my box, the mailbox, okay? Thank you.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is the point in the meeting when we invite the public to come and address the Board of Health. Is there anyone who would like to come and address the Board of Health? Being no rush of people, I will entertain motion to adjourn.
So, second?
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Larry?
Yes.
Okay, we're back to item number 8 on the main agenda. This is introduction of a new ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, item number 8, introduction of new ordinance, ordinance number 2743-14. It's an ordinance to amend Chapter 271 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Zoning and Development Regulations. This ordinance will permit residential property owners to erect a 6-foot fence along the rear property line of their property under certain circumstances.
Can we get a motion, Ms. Larrier?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on March 18th.
Second?
Any discussion?
Just to reiterate, this ordinance now, once the ordinance is amended, it will allow the erection of 6-foot fences on the rear rear line of the property.
Sometimes.
That's right, not yours, not yours,
Sometimes,
sometimes.
unless the rear abuts the side of another.
As long as the two properties are rears or abutting.
Yes, thank you.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mrs. Leventhal?
No.
Mr. Ryan?
No.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Passes 3-2.
We have another ordinance on introduction.
Ordinance number 2744-14, bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements of the Township of Maplewood and the County of Essex, New Jersey, appropriating aggregate amount of $3,624,022, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $2,908,737 in bonds or notes of the Township to finance part of the cost thereof.
Can we get a motion, Ms. Leventhal?
Mr. Mayor, I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on March 18, 2014.
Second.
Just a question, do we have to wait a month, or we can do it at the next meeting?
2 weeks.
2 weeks only, okay, sorry, I thought it was a month. Any conversation about this, any discussion?
I think it just would be helpful for the Finance Committee to reiterate that we are continuing on our plan to retire more debt than we take on in future years.
Correct. Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mrs. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. We have an introduction of another new ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, item number 10, ordinance number 2745-14, to provide for the compensation of part-time and seasonal employees of the Recreation Department for the year 2014. This ordinance will set the wages for part-time and seasonal employees of the Maplewood Recreation Department.
Mr. Mayor, I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on March 18, 2014.
Second.
Any discussion on this ordinance? Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mrs. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we have four discussion items. The first is commercial vehicles, residential parking. This actually was brought up by Mrs. Larrier at the last meeting, came out of the Code Enforcement Committee, and after Mr. Desiderio, we had instructed Mr. Desiderio to write the ordinance and put it on for consideration tonight, and after the ordinance was circulated, we received a correspondence from Mr. Mittelmeyer asking for some clarification that said, based on the way this is written, an owner could park a commercial vehicle in a garage and a commercial vehicle that met the weight definition on the property also, so you could be two. And then it came up that, in fact, because we have the other exclusion of the cab, that someone could park a truck in the garage, a vehicle less than 8,500 or less, or more, I'm sorry, 8,500 or less in the driveway, and the taxi. I'm not sure that that was our intent. My feeling is that it should be one vehicle.
Mayor, there was also a memo from the chief of police.
Correct.
Sorry, it's hard.
The chief of police, you can't hear me? The chief
I
of
can
police-
hear you, but I don't know if you can be heard otherwise.
Chief, he can be heard out there.
Yeah.
I can hear it through the whole system.
Okay.
Go ahead. Use mine.
The police chief
Yes,
also sent an email.
right. And he had the same concerns, right? Correct?
Yeah, well, he was concerned about gross vehicle weight and how to enforce it, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, there were some enforcement issues that he was concerned with.
Well, he actually was in favor of the gross vehicle weight because it tells that on the registration.
Well, yeah, if you have the, but not all vehicles have it written on the sides.
No, on the,
I'm looking for the email here. I know we have something.
no, he was talking about the first part of the definition of capacity not exceeding 1 ton.
Right.
Then he says,
Loaded or not.
the standard markings of vehicles are indicated for gross vehicle weight. That's on the door when you open that up, that little plate.
Yes.
But there's no way that you can determine the capacity. He was actually objecting to the first part of the ordinance, which exists right now,
The
the garage piece.
garage part, okay. Okay. Well, in any event, there are,
Right.
and just, I mean, this is what I would generally do with all ordinances, is to circulate them to, I think,
Right.
the affected department heads.
Well, I think what I would suggest is that we have something in here that says only one commercial vehicle can be parked on a residential premise, whether that is the vehicle that's in the garage, the vehicle that's in the driveway, or the cab.
Well,
Would we, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Ryan, and then Mrs. Larrier.
what I remember from these discussions was the notion of allowing a residential vehicle to be, a commercial vehicle to be parked, such that it could be seen overnight. I don't care if somebody parks a commercial vehicle in a garage. I thought that the objection wasn't housing it on the property as much as it was housing it in a place where it could be seen at night. So maybe I'm wrong, but to my way of thinking, if somebody has something in the garage where it can't be seen and something outside the garage, that looks to me like just one, and I'm okay with that.
Invisible.
Yeah, I think the issue was that you then, you have people you just have a lot of trucks around too.
I mean,
guess that was the
I could
issue.
be convinced I'm wrong about that, but I remember that the discussion was around, what you could see at night parked overnight, and if somebody, had a vehicle that they were keeping in their garage, if they're able to keep it in their garage, it's small enough that it's not objectionable anyway. And so what if it's in their garage, nobody sees it? Right? I mean, you can't park a truck in a little garage, the kind of which we're talking about here, I think.
Originally, when we discussed this, we were talking about vehicles that are too big to go in the garage.
Right.
So if they have a small cab in the garage, we didn't really know about it anyway.
Right.
And I guess I sort of, not that it, from the perspective of chief trying to enforce it, there's one that's visible and there's one that's kind of hidden, it seems like that would be even problematic from an enforcement standpoint. Oh, you've got one here, but I know you got one in the garage as well. I don't know, it just gets kind of
I don't know that if we,
quirky. So I think I'm okay with having one in the garage that's not visible. I just think it might be problematic from an enforcement standpoint to say that that's in violation because you have one, and this one's not in violation even though it has one. Oh, but one's in violation because there's another one in the garage. So I'm fine with having one that's not visible in the garage. It's just one visible on the property.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, if I'm in the minority on
Well,
that,
let's see.
No,
I think
I
you're
think-
not. I think I am. Ms. Leventhal.
So what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm not correct, is that whatever's in the garage is in the garage, but outside it's one vehicle, whether it's a commercial plated vehicle of 500 pounds or less, or a taxi. Is that correct?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. I would go with that. I do have another question about this, though.
Bless you.
Okay. So I think what I'm hearing is that you can have one vehicle outside of the garage, and that either being a commercial vehicle that's 8,500 or less, or an auto cab.
So, Mayor, do you disagree with that?
No, I'm okay with it.
And then the portion about in the garage is coming out?
No, in the garage can stay.
So it's that and
Correct.
cab or
Right.
8,500?
Right.
Okay, now can we go, I'm sorry, can we go to what the chief is talking about?
Yeah, but
about the one,
but
two?
I also want to just, on that, let's just stick with I also would like to put in there something that if you're going to park that vehicle, it must be as far off the road as possible, as far in the driveway as possible, so that, the person has to pull it back and it's not in the front.
How,
The-
as far as possible, meaning like within a certain number of feet of, all the way in?
Because we have, like on Evelyn Court and those places, they have, a driveway that's right on the street.
No, I'm not talking about from the street. When you say all the way in, I'm trying to define what all the way in is.
Well, I think it's, I don't know, you have to figure out some, it has to be in the
come up
rear
with
of the
some language.
driveway or something like
Yeah,
that.
well, that's what I'm saying. It has to be within, 3 feet of all the way in or 2 feet of all, how far, in other words, if you're 20 feet away from all the way in, is that in violation versus if you're 5 feet away, you're okay?
You'll figure it out.
Can I,
That's all my only question.
I'll come up with
but
something.
may I throw, I'm sorry, if, I have another, monkey wrench throw into it. I had some discussion with some residents regarding their concern about property values as a result of this ordinance. And the visibility of the vehicles. So I did a little talking to some realtors. The answer that I got back was the measurements that we suggest likely would not cause much of a problem. He understood that ideally people don't necessarily want to see it, but he doesn't think, he thinks that erring on the side of allowing people their living is better than not. He doesn't also believe that the criteria or the specifications that we're allowing will be problematic. But after further consideration, it seems to me, much to your point, Mayor, that such vehicles should only be but so close to the street. And I'm sure I'm going to get some pushback on this, but I would like to say that those vehicles, while they would be in the driveway and visible, should be no closer than the frontage of the home. Understanding that there are some homes that would, as a result, be excluded from this ordinance. But be that as it may, I think there needs to be, for my point, for myself, I seem to like the idea that
Right.
they can't be but so close to the street. And I think the frontage is, most homes are not with the garage right in the front. I think most people who have these vehicles don't have those homes. I could be wrong. But I would like
Yeah,
to
I'm
put
not
that
sure
in there.
about
Yeah,
that.
I'm
I'm not sure about that. But let me ask you a question, Mr. Desidero. Can you accommodate what Mrs. Larrier is talking about?
The answer is you could certainly, a couple of points. Mr. Brownlee's point, I think, is good because from an enforcement purpose, we need to try to be as specific as possible, and I'll certainly try to do that. I mean, we could certainly say that the vehicle cannot be parked any closer than the front yard setback. Okay, so that clearly gives you definition.
What about the houses that don't have a front yard setback?
Well, everybody has a front yard setback, but the houses with the garages underneath are a problem because that excludes them.
Right.
Because the front yard setback is
It's in there.
25 feet from the curb.
Right.
And those vehicles are going to be closer.
And just out of curiosity, how would my house, I'm always the
Yeah.
monkey wrench and things, where I'm on a corner, when you say front is the front or is the front the side? Because I'm on a corner,
Generally speaking.
and I think it just gets problematic.
We have, a corner house, and I'm on a corner also. Corner houses have 2 front yard setbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in your
You don't have
instance,
much of a driveway either. right?
Yeah, I have a double driveway, and it's,
Okay.
but it's, it goes back. But yeah, I mean, that's a problem.
I think it would get complicated.
That- Right. That is a problem, I will say, and that's why we have a zoning board. And so I would think that someone could then apply to the zoning board for a variance. We've done the exact same thing with the 6-foot fences. We've excluded some people based on the fact that their home doesn't abut the backyard of someone else.
Well,
And I didn't like it
seems
there.
like a pretty big hurdle to have to go for a zoning change, I mean, a variance. What if we said that it has to be behind the front yard setback, and if you don't have that, then you have to come in and get a special permit from the township clerk?
What basis would you have to grant or deny that permit?
So you have, on the house, that the house doesn't have a setback.
No, so-
That the driveway is not past the setback.
Now, and are we talking about this for both the auto cab and the truck, or are we just talking about it for the truck?
You see, the auto cab already, and actually a lot of the cabs are in the houses where the garage door is, and the driveway is in front of the house.
But the cabs could actually, but they could fit in the garage, right?
Yeah, but I guess
Yeah.
we're talking about the cases where it can't.
But it doesn't happen because many of them are coming home at 3 o'clock in the morning and there's already a car in the garage, so you don't have to jockey cars. I mean, the reality is that if I'm driving a van, I'm an electrician, I'm driving a van, I could park my car in front of my house from 6 in the morning till midnight, from 2 to 2 in the morning.
Up until 2 in the morning.
I can park it in front of my house all day long and
Up until 2.
up until 2 in the morning, go out there 2 in the morning and have to move it from 2 to 6. So we're talking about a 4-hour window that somebody would have there. And then, of course, Sundays when probably you're not working. But, you know, I think, I mean, the other way maybe is that it has to be within a certain footage of the driveway, of the garage. Everybody has a garage, right? Everybody's supposed to have a garage?
Not everybody, but most.
Okay, so let's say most.
Many.
Most people. Right. So you have to park within 5 feet of the garage door or something like that.
Well, I was going with what your suggestion was before, just basically pull it in and define whatever distance that is, you say 5 feet or 10 feet or whatever, of whatever as far as you can get in is.
Right.
So whether it's a garage or just, you know,
Yeah,
whatever.
why don't we do that? Why don't we park,
You
so
know,
it has
just-
to be
you have
within
to
5 feet of the garage.
pull
And that'll
within-
cover everybody, because even if you're in the front,
No
you still
closer,
have to come.
You have to be up as
no
have to
close.
go-
no closer to the street than 5 feet from, yeah.
No,
that-
no, no,
that
no,
actually-
no, no, I'm saying,
No, it
and I
doesn't
think
work?
you were saying the same thing.
No, we're
No,
not.
it's not the distance from the street.
Different.
No,
because-
he's
No,
saying,
closer to the street.
go closer to the street. He's using legal language.
And 5
So-
feet.
Well,
Ha-
5 feet
say
from
it
the
then.
garage is going to be different
Yeah, okay.
In every house.
in every house.
Right.
If he says no closer to the street than 5
right.
feet, I
No,
could
no, he's
put-
not saying that.
Okay, I understand. No, I'm not saying
No.
5 feet of the street. Okay.
He's saying that the car has to be parked within 5 feet of the garage.
Only question I have is whether or not you have to say the garage or 5 feet of whatever all the way in is. I don't know if it,
I'll come up with something.
Yeah.
If there's no garage, okay.
basically, yeah.
Would a truck then?
Yes.
All right. So we dealt with that. Now you want to go to, much of what the chief is saying is with the existing ordinance.
Yes.
Okay,
As long as we're doing it, we might as well do it, right?
okay, so we're talking about 5B, right? On the ordinance.
We're talking about basically the 1 ton.
Right.
That's where you think the issue is.
Did we not say 8,500?
This is the one that gets parked in the garage.
Oh, okay.
He
I'm
he
sorry.
is, I think he's basically saying, do the gross vehicle weight and change that 1 ton to some gross vehicle weight definition, because it's easier for them to enforce.
Well, what if we just say a vehicle above 8,500 feet, more than 8,500 gross? Because according to the
excess of-
transportation, that gets to be a heavy-duty vehicle, 8,500 to 10,000 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, when I spoke to Eric about this, he basically said, when you start getting over 8,500 pounds, you have a dual axle.
Right.
Okay, a dual rear wheels, and that's when you start to get over that weight. So, okay, so anything in excess of can be parked in it can be one on, but it has to be parked in a garage. Okay, I understand.
And what is that covers everything?
I think so.
Oh, he also talked about the word legal resident or legal residence.
What do we use? We used,
We say a resident may park.
as opposed to so.
Because he's talking about complaints about visitors or friends who are temporary living or just stays at a location.
You know, I tried to make it resident. I mean, originally I thought, you know, it was property owner, and I said, well, you have tenants.
So you have a resident.
You know,
I think that's fine.
I think resident is.
I think it's fine.
reasonable.
Otherwise, we're gonna, yes.
Yeah, I have a question. In 15B, the last sentence, it says,
We're looking at the ordinance?
Yes.
Okay, 15B, yes.
the last sentence.
In addition,
In addition to those vehicles requiring commercial plates, a vehicle shall not be considered a commercial vehicle if it has lettering or a sign indicating commercial nature of the vehicle. We're
That's-
okay with this?
that's got to come out. That's got to be changed.
Right.
Yeah,
We're going to
that's
recapture
what
all
I-
of that in that
thank you.
8,500.
Okay, good.
Okay?
Okay. Yes.
Okay, everybody? So this will be on for the next,
And I want to personally thank Ms. Larrier for listening to all the residents.
yes. I actually closed I closed my ears to that one particular resident. Told him to get a life. Number 2, 60 Woodland Road. This goes, I think we're going to, this description here is, we're going to put on for the next meeting. But we are going to deal now with the recommendation from Mr. Desiderio to consider Resolution 50-14, authorizing withdrawal of defense in 60 Woodland Road zoning litigation.
Yes, Mayor, members of the committee. It's our recommendation, after doing extensive research and talking to an expert in the area, that it's probably not, that it is not in the township's best interest to continue in the litigation that's presently pending with regard to 60 Woodland Road. It is our recommendation that we notify the court that the township is withdrawing its opposition to that litigation, and let the judge decide the case accordingly. Basically, the proposed, or the zoning that was granted by the variance is not, I think, consistent with what the governing body has talked about, the future plans and uses for that property. So there really is no reason to spend any more time or effort with regard to it. So it is our recommendation, and as reflected in that resolution, 50-14, Mayor, that,
Yes.
that the township withdraw from that case.
Is there a motion?
We should also observe, then this is stated in the resolution, that by separate action, the Zoning Board of Adjustment has also withdrawn its objection, and we have no objection to their withdrawal.
Correct.
Says that in the resolution. I move the adoption of Resolution 5014.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. And we will talk about 60 Woodland Road at the next meeting. This definition, Ms. Fritzen, will change, but we'll have, just put a placeholder for 60
Yes.
Woodland at
Yes,
the next
Mayor.
meeting. Thank you.
Mayor, before you go on, can I go back a step? On this commercial vehicle ordinance, it seems to me that we have a few moving parts.
Oh,
And I
whoa,
would,
very good, very good.
I would suggest, I think it probably makes more sense to distribute it to you and carry it again for discussion, so that I make sure that I capture what you want, because I hate to send it out and then have it published, and then you're not going to like something. There's enough moving parts to it that I think it requires that.
I think that's fine. The only thing I would ask is that we hold in abeyance any ticketing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
For
Yeah,
discussion.
there
Okay,
had
That's
been,
I
fine.
see what you're
there
saying.
had
Okay,
been a
okay.
January date, so.
Is that
Right.
so
I
we
just-
can
I
entertain
just think
more
that,
comments from
you know, I hate to
residents?
put it, and then you're going to,
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
That's fine. Yeah, we want the wheels of justice to move smoothly. No potholes here. The 2014 budget. We received information from Mr. Manning. The Finance Committee met and went over a number of items with Mr. Manning. And we have before us a budget with, right now, the tax rate being 2% increase, which was our stated goal, up to 2%, no more than. And the question, I'm going to ask Mr. Manning to speak about some of the items that are in both the operating and the capital, some of the goals that we met this year. But after he talks, if anyone has questions, but the purpose tonight is to send him an indication that we're prepared to enter this at the next introduce this at the next meeting, correct?
Correct.
So could you give us a snapshot of the components of the budget?
Well, the 2014 budget as presented to you reflects the values of the Township Committee. In terms of public safety, there will be an addition of 2 more police officers hired with additional technology upgrades to help them, the police, do their jobs. We're putting money aside for a new fire engine that we will be getting in the future. We will be, to the tune of $1.2 million, we'll have road reconstruction and repair. We are giving additional technology and energy savings to the library. We're continuing our shared services with other municipalities, particularly with the Village of South Orange. We are purchasing a new jitney bus because it's a very popular program and it's growing. We are going to have cleaner streets because we're going to purchase a new street sweeper. And we're putting additional dollars in Maplewood Village to clean the sidewalks and to remove the gum that's there, and also to put additional parking places for there in and around 60 Woodland Road. So that's what your budget, and other things, but
And Mr. Manning, if I'm reading this correctly, we have a total appropriation for 2014 that's actually lower by almost 1% than the 2013 appropriation.
that is correct.
If I look at page 4 here,
Oh, you're on. Yes.
39,600,000 in 2013, and this year it's 39,318,000.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And what Mr. Ryan mentioned before is we are only incurring about 90% of the debt that we are retiring.
Yes, and that's
something
part
that-
of your plan.
Part of our plan.
Yes.
And I know, Mr. Brownlee, you have been an advocate for 2 police officers, and I know the Public Safety Committee has talked about that. And when do you think, if we approve this, we're going to have those officers on by the end of the year, correct?
I think that's the plan, yeah.
Okay. Any comments, questions? So we're going to authorize Mr. Manning to move ahead, and this will be the budget we're going to introduce on the 18th?
Do you need a resolution?
No.
No, we don't need that. We just want to make sure everyone's okay with it? Yes. Okay.
So we'll tighten that up. There are a few outstanding little questions that we will be adjusting, so there's always minor adjustments to this to the very last moment.
And Mr. Desiderio, did you got the call today about Maplewood Crossing? Yes. Okay, so you're going to follow up on that?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
You're aware that we met, and there were some issues, and we
Correct.
went back, we got a partial payment, et cetera. But yes, I followed up with him. I had actually spoken to Mr. Cecchio late last week about something else. We talked about it, and today I told him that we needed it because we needed to work through the budget issue, so, yes.
Great, thank you very much. The next item, our last item, Spring Rakeout Program. Ms. Leventhal?
We have received a request from our Department Head of Public Works, Eric Bergbank. And this involves both the spring rakeout and the bulk drop-off. He's proposing that we do not have the first week of the spring rakeout. And this would be because it coincides with the bulk drop-off, and the bulk drop-off and the spring rakeout can't occupy the same space at the same time over in the Public Works yard. So there's like a huge problem there. The other thing is that the bulk drop-off is always the second Saturday in May for the spring, and then the second Saturday in September for the fall. But if we have to change that date, it's going to cause difficulties for people that have been doing this for the last few years. So that's the logistics as it's tied into the spring rake out and the bulk drop-off are tied together. However, there are other things, like the potholes. The non-county roads are going to be repaired by our public works workers, and this is going to be very time-intensive, labor-intensive this year, as we all know. So we need the time for that. We also have work to do on our parks and fields, and with the snow still on the ground, we're not getting the start that we'd like on that. So there's a number of reasons, and I am recommending that, well, actually, before I recommend, I'd like to hear from Mr. Manning.
So what, in essence, Mr. Burbank would like to suggest is that we go from 5 pickups to 4 pickups. And the first pickup of the spring is usually a very light one. And with things the way they are out there today and the weather still being cold for the foreseeable future, it's going to be a while before people can get in their yards and get all that together. So there should not be a big miss in terms of opportunity, because they'll have the next one and 3 more after that. So that's what it boils down to.
So it is the first one that he's looking to eliminate?
Yes.
It is the first one that he's
right,
looking to
yes.
eliminate.
And we will get word out on our website, et cetera, to let people know.
It occurs to me that even if the snow is gone, it will be so muddy that not a lot of people are going to be traipsing around in their backyards anyway.
So is everybody okay with this? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Consent agenda, can we get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Does this include the open session minutes?
Yes.
Because actually there was an item, I'm sorry, I should have asked for a correction on that.
Go ahead.
Are we in discussion, or we already
Yeah,
called
you
the
could,
roll?
no, you could, yeah.
Okay. There were actually 2 things on the open session minutes for February 18th that I wanted to make a correction to. The first is in the administrative reports, page 6, paragraph 2. The marks attributed to me, Mr. Brownlee, a sentence that begins, Mr. Brownlee, just for the benefit of the public. And I can email this to you, but here's the restatement of that. I'm going to say, Mr. Brownlee asked Mr. Manning to state for the public which particular alert residents should sign up for to ensure that they get alerts announcing when the jitneys are closed and when they resume operating. So I want it to be stated as that. What's written there, it looks like it's kind of mixed up grammatically. And second is on reports from elected officials, page 13, paragraph 3. It's just a typo. Who does the township complain to is TOO, and I just want it to be 10. That's all.
Okay.
Was this the meeting that you had 6
Yeah.
items? Okay. It was probably fatigue. It was too much. Okay. With those corrections, it's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you very much. We now have our second public comment period. Is there anyone who would like to address the Township Committee? Okay, seeing no one, we'll get to report. We have no reports from departments this evening. We have administrative reports. Mr. Manning.
No report, sir. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Manning?
Nice job on the budget. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to, I find the reports on the website very illuminating.
Actually, I was going to...
I was
Go ahead,
gonna-
if you're going to say that.
Okay. No, I just think that what is interesting is that whenever we have a snowstorm, it just goes off the charts. So I think it's critical, and obviously there's a lot of people looking for the jitney when you look at what, you know, the keyword that they're searching, but...
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I was noting, because you went back, Mr. Correa, in his summary, it goes back to October, And it's interesting to see over time how the search terms kind of morph over time. You know, in October it was basketball, parking, leaf collection, and pickup, and then, you know, then you start seeing November jitney and leaf pickup, jitney, post office, jitney, you know, and so, you know, the jitney was definitely one thing that was definitely noted a lot. But it's interesting, and now in February it was jitney, parking, post office, and pool.
Yeah, who's thinking of the pool nowadays, right? But I guess they're about to
Nobody's asking
sign
about
up,
the pool
right?
in
Yes.
November, you know,
But
so
it is.
so it is interesting to see how the actual behavior of people visiting the site actually changes over time. And the most commonly used page being the home page, obviously that's where people land, and the news flash. So people are paying attention to the news flashes. It's by far the second most seen site page on the site. So
The other thing I found interesting, and you know, I do these analytics for at the foundation where I work, and I find the access, the desktop versus mobile.
Safari.
I mean, it's huge how many mobile devices are hitting our website.
Which
is different than where I am,
When
which
people
is
use
mostly
mobile
desktop.
apps, is that Safari? Because I was noting that the most commonly used browser was Safari, and that kind of struck me as odd. So I guess it's all people with iPhones and things
Yes.
like
Right.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, so this is an iPhone town.
interesting.
I look at the statistics sometimes and wonder if there's peaks that can't be explained by, you know, storm events or something like that. You do always see I'm looking at Cesar, now, you always see like a strong correlation between,
Yes, there's certain events that certainly cause peaks in the numbers of visits that we get to the website.
And we saw it a couple of months ago when we did the flashes on the post office design and stuff. Whenever it was a hot issue, it seemed to peak up.
Yeah, you see-
marriage equality, right, that was another thing, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else for Mr. Manning?
Yes, and I apologize, I probably should have brought this up during the Board of Health meeting, but in meeting with Mr. Rowe, we determined that the dog and cat licenses are down, way down this year. I suspect it's because of the change in the deadline. We toyed with playing with the grace period and threw that one out right away. But what I would like, if you could work with Mr. Rowe to put out an alert, just as a reminder.
Absolutely, because it's interesting, many people who did come in late said, well, I never received anything. And I know personally I never received one at my home, and we did mail them out, and we, you know, it was a lot, and we spent a fair amount of money on that.
Well, we
So-
did have a little problem with the mail.
Yes, it seems to have resolved itself, at least in my neighborhood, or home, anyway.
So, yeah, if you could
Yes,
do that.
I will work, yes, we will do that.
Thank you.
Mr. Desiderio? Ooh, boy. Anything for Mr. Desiderio? Ms. Fritzen?
I have one thing, just to start the SID budget process at the next meeting with getting the SIDs for the two presented, their numbers, and then scheduling a public hearing from their notifications.
Probably just mention that SID is the Special Improvement District.
Special Improvement Districts, sorry.
Brookfield Avenue Partnership and the Village Alliance.
Something that we have to follow by law to satisfy the compliance and notifications.
and
So-
will we end up doing those hearings at the same time as the municipal budget hearing, or we'll get them done earlier?
Actually, once the budget is just presented to you for informational at the next meeting, it'll be approximately 30 days before 2 meetings before we'll have a hearing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have had the municipal budget and the SIDs simultaneous at meetings.
It's very confusing. But, say it again?
I'm thinking that they should come in, if we're introducing at the next meeting.
They are coming in the next meeting, right?
The next meeting, you would take no action, it would be presented to you only.
Right.
Do you want to wait a meeting then?
No, we want them to come in the next meeting,
Okay.
As soon as possible.
Okay.
but we're not going to take any action.
No,
We'll introduce the main budget.
Yes, and they come in and they present their budget, but you can't approve that budget at that particular meeting?
No,
No, it has to be
presented,
published and everything.
then it has to be advertised.
Actually, because their budget relies on the town budget, it really has to come subsequent to the town approval.
Got it.
Yep, that's right.
Okay, reports of elected officials, Mr. Ryan,
I have no report, Mayor, thank you.
Mr. Brownlee.
One item, actually two. No, I'm not going to go to six. Okay. One of the organizations which I'm a liaison to, the South Orange Maplewood Community Coalition on Race, had produced a video overview of the Maplewood, South Orange, the two towns, and it was noted at their last meeting that since September 2013, when that video was generated, they have had so far 3,890 views of that video, which, if anybody has actually seen the video, is actually very well done. And for anyone who wants to see that, if you go to we've also added a link to it on the Maplewood Township website. There's a section where you have the video tour of Maplewood Township. So if you go to the township website, maplewoodnj.org, and you go to the video tour of Maplewood Township, there's a link on it to the Community Coalition on Race, and if you click on that, you can see the video that they produced, which again I think does a very good overview of Township of Maplewood and South Orange, showing the diversity, the vibrancy, it gives a good overview of the Township of Maplewood and South Orange for that matter. And secondly is I have my office hours scheduled for next Tuesday, March 11th from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. at the Hilton branch of the Maplewood Library on Springfield Avenue. Once again, from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. That's my report. Thank you.
Ms. Leventhal.
I'd like to make community aware of a program that we learned about in the Environmental Subcommittee. It's not a town program, but it is one that affects both Maplewood and South Orange. It's called Solarize Soma, S-O-M-A, being South Orange, Maplewood. And it's a group of residents who are already obtaining their energy from solar installation on the roof of their home. There are 85 homes in Maplewood and South Orange that have energy coming in through the solar panels. They are looking to increase that to another 85. They have gone out with with an RFP and have information that can be information out that and questions that can be answered by the two principal people in this endeavor. Again, it's not the township doing this project, but in terms of what you can accomplish in your own home and the savings, both in installation and in future energy use, this is a good environmental project if you're inclined, and you can have a free estimate. At this point, I'd like to ask if we can put a link, or not a link, we can put the flyer that they have up on our website until March 30th, because they select a contractor on March 31st, and we don't want it in any way to be seen as this is something that the town is initiating.
So do we have it electronically, or do you?
I can provide that.
Okay, yes.
Okay. So, and what you'll see on the flyer is the information you need to contact the group. I'd also like to give information about a dam that is a possibility in South Mountain Reservation. There's been a project by the Army Corps of Engineers on the federal level since 1999. They have chosen to present 7 options as to how flooding downstream on the Rahway River can be helped. This includes towns like Cranford, Springfield, Milburn, etc. In the second options, there are two that involve damming part of the South Mountain Reservation. The size of the dam the structure itself would be 70 feet high by 880 feet long. There are groups that are meeting to discuss this. Our own Environmental Advisory Committee discussed it, and they are opposing the dam. They think there's value in the Mayor's Council and in the two groups that are sponsored with the South Mountain Conservancy. There's another group that has started. It's called South Mountain Reservation, Save Our Reservation. This has not, by my own estimation, been an open process. Apparently the report with the options has been delivered to the state. It is supposedly in the governor's office, but it had been stated that the committees would have access to this report early on, and that has not happened, for example. There is state money going into this. It's being worked on financially by the federal government and the Army Corps and by our Department of Environmental Protection in Trenton. At this point, our mayor is meeting with other mayors, and that seems to be continuing, and that the group Save Our Reservation has been formed and will be meeting with Congressman Payne, for example. I'd like to request that we have information, a presentation maybe from the Save Our Reservation group at a township committee meeting in the very near future, if that a mayor would tie in okay with your mayor's group.
Yeah, I think we want to see, it would be great if we could get this thing released by the governor's office. I mean, that might be something we want to do, is pass a resolution calling on the governor's office to release the report so we can see what the thing is.
That would send a clear message, and it is at the crux of where we're at now.
Why don't you make a motion?
I do move that we pass a resolution asking that the governor's office release the Army Corps of Engineers report on the Rahway River water remediation project.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes,
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
thank you. Okay, and that should go out far and wide to our representatives, to the governor's office, and our federal representatives.
Federal and state?
Federal and state, yes.
Can you just email me the particulars?
Definitely. We may even want to consider sending this to,
Not the county.
Yeah, send it to
The
the county,
county, the
freeholders,
South- yeah.
and and then when I get it, I'll send it to the mayor's council.
Right. Thank you.
Okay? Mrs. Larrier?
No report.
Okay, my report is just two items. The library on Wednesday at 1 p.m. will be kicking off, will be launching Buckles, which is the Bergen County Community Library System. And it is 75 libraries. It emanates out of Bergen County, and we are joining it, and our patrons of the library will have access to thousands of documents and books and whatever, databases, yes. And then my second item is that I too have office hours, competing office hours with Mr. Brownlee, 7 to 8 p.m. I will be here at Town Hall. And we have to go back into closed session because we have a number of items dealing with contracts and negotiations and personnel that need to be discussed. So I need a motion that we need to
I'm
read
gonna
it,
read
right? You're going to read it here? Fine.
Whereas Section 80 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, permits exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, whereas this public body is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee, Township of Maplewood, County of Essex, State of New Jersey as follows. The public shall be excluded from discussion of any action upon the herein specified subject matter. The general nature of the subject matter discussed as follows. Contract negotiations.
Personnel.
Personnel. One personnel. It's anticipated at this time that the above stated subject matter will be made public. This resolution will take effect immediately.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mrs. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you very much. We'll see you on March 18th.
Don't touch anything. I gotta finalize that base thing off. For that, you can't.